What's up, Niner Nation? San Francisco 49er fans, red and gold crazies all over. Back at it again. Today we're talking about the upcoming 49ers offseason, which is going to be very interesting, especially with the whole Jimmy Garoppolo situation, which if you haven't been following recent headlines and news, you'll see that they're already working out a possible trade for him, trying to find a destination for him and to be in a position of a team that is headed in the right direction toward winning, as per what Jimmy Garoppolo has wished for. He wants to go to a team that is trying to win, or obviously in the position to win, or on that road. So, that being said, it will be interesting to see what we do when we make that trade. I'm not going to get into the whole. I'm a Jimmy G fan, so I'm kind of biased. But again, just to say it briefly, I think that it sucked that they had put the team in the situation last year to be at odds between Trey Lance and him, or they had brought that situation into existence, as well as giving away two future first round draft picks for a rookie whom lacked experience or whatever. Not a knock at Trey Lance, and I've said this a million times. And I wonder, had they would have reached a Super Bowl this year, would they would have changed their mind? Now, on the business side of things, obviously, trading him knocks off a lot of money on the cap, as recent some headlines were talking about, which makes a lot of sense. So, in trading him, I wonder what they'll be able to get back. Okay, obviously, you're not going to get back a first round draft pick. That's not going to happen. You're probably most likely not going to get a second round draft pick. I think what you're looking at is probably a third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh, anywhere from third down. And even the third could be somewhat of a reach, but I think it's a little more reasonable. But the first and second rounds are definitely out, unless you're going to send him to a team that is very quarterback hungry. And as of right now, the only teams I can really think about that are in need of a quarterback are obviously the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, with Tom Brady retiring yesterday officially. That would make sense. But again, I don't think you're gonna give up a second round draft pick for him, unless the Buccaneers aren't able to fill that role. So again, it's going to be a process. They're going to weigh the pros and cons of where they send him, because the 49ers have got to get back proper value. And being in the situation they are with this year's draft, you could pretty much shoot the fact of them trying to get a first round draft pick. I don't think that's going to happen. So the most they can do is hopefully continue to get multiple picks in this upcoming draft and do something with that. But it will be interesting to see where they send him and what value they do get back. I don't think you'll really see them get a players for him because of the salary cap. They do have a lot of off-season moves to make. Now, looking at their off-season free agent list, a good list of players are up here. Laken Tomlinson, Jason Verrett, DJ Jones, Raheem Mostert, Kiwan Williams, Jeff Wilson, Ross Dwelly, Josh Norman, Marcel Harris, Mohamed Sanu, Jakowski Tarte, Tavon Wilson, Tom Compton, all universal free agents. Dante Johnson, Maurice Hirsch, Arden Key, Jordan Willis, Trent Sherfield, Trenton Cannon, Daniel Brunskill, who is restricted. Jake Brendel is restricted. Contavious Street is universal. And then there's Demetrius Flanagan Fowles, who is an exclusive restricted free agent, as well as Jermichael Hasty, who is an exclusive restricted free agent. Juwon Jennings, who's exclusive restricted free agent. Richie James is a universal. Aziz Al-Shahir is restricted, and Kevin Gibbons is exclusive restricted free agent. So a lot of stuff to do this offseason. And it's not too bad in terms of money-wise, because there are other teams that are going to be in rough positions and they're going to have to pony up a lot of money or let some of these studs walk. In a 49ers situation, we also know that they want to offer lucrative extensions to wide receiver Deebo Samuel and a defensive end Nick Bosa, which makes a total shit ton of sense. Something they have to do to lock those players up fully and for the future. So that's going to cost money. So let's talk about this list that I just named to you. Well, Laken Tomlinson had a phenomenal year. Okay, seemed to get better every year. He's part of a very good core offensive line who played their asses off this season and was one of the main reasons why that offensive flowed the way it did, hence be the run game and the protection for Jimmy G. I definitely think they should bring him back. Now, that being said, they also have some good young talent. Aaron Banks, who was a rookie this year, drafted from Notre Dame. Okay, that line has really gelled together well, especially this season. And I think it's really important that they bring back key players that were very big in it. Jalen Moore, okay, was a rookie this season from Western Michigan. So these are two young, talented guys who had a year to kind of watch and fill in when they had to. So I can, I think obviously, yeah. Are they ready to go? I don't really know, but because we haven't seen a lot out of them. But I just think that a guy whose experience is Laken Tomlinson and who's played as well as he has, you got to bring him back to that offensive line. It is very important. In football, we see that when there's an offensive line that's been together for a variety of years, for the most part, the offense is flowing. And the more interchangeable parts you bring, or patchwork as you will, things don't always work out the way that should. The more a team has the ability to get used to each other and play among each other is always a lot better. And they really lucked out with that offensive line this year. In fact, I think it was the best offensive line in football. I really do. So I think they should definitely bring him back without a doubt. Now, of course, it's going to cost like anything else in life, and he's going to obviously, most likely want more money. I would think that he would generate a lot of interest from various teams. He's only 29, which is still young. 6 years experience in the league. He was a former first round pick, and his last contract was 3 years, 16 million. Which is, I'm guessing that that's going to be, he's going to be wanting more money, and he's not wrong. I can't blame him for that. He's definitely going to be wanting more money, especially the fact that he's been so durable. He's in, since 2017, since we acquired him. Let's see, he's missed one. I have him missing here one game. He's, this year started all 17. Last year only started 15 out of 16 the year before, 16 out of 16 the year before, 16 out of 16 the year before, 15 out of 15. Guy's a stud, man. He really is. I think you definitely have to bring him back. That should be on there to do radar right away. Get him back. Get that offensive line solidified really quick, because let's face it, running the ball is where our strength is at. And we need a guy back that has played as well as he has. I think this could have been his best year, to tell you the truth. Along with the rest of that offensive line. So that's the one guy so far they definitely have to bring back. It's key. Moving on towards this list. Second, we have Jason Verray. Missed the year. Last year had a lights out season. This season, obviously, not so much the same. Only appeared in one game, went down with that injury. And unfortunately for him, his career has just been hampered by injuries. I mean, he missed 16 games this year. He missed 16 games in 2019. 2018 was a total wash. 2017, he missed 15 games. 2016, he missed 12 games. So, and in his, in his career, he's missed a lot of games. And they only had him on a 1-year contract this year after the monster season he had last year. To be honest, I think they should just let him walk. You can't, at this point, look, their defensive backfield needs work. They need to solidify a couple things back there, and I just don't think it's worth taking another chance on a guy. He's 30 years old. It's not old, but still, the injuries, it's not worth the gamble. Plus, you got some good young talent back there with Ambry Thomas, Theodore Lenore. Jason Verray is a guy I think that because of injuries should let walk. Next is DJ Jones. Resign that guy right away. DJ Jones, in my opinion, is one of the best defensive tackles in football. Played a huge role this season. A huge role in helping that defense play the way they did. May not have those numbers that jump out at you because the stats may not be as sexy as I should say because he doesn't get a lot of sacks, but he does so many other things that are ultra important. First of all, the guy, plugs up the defensive line, takes on two offensive players, offensive linemen, clogs the run well, and he moves really well for a big dude, helps the other players generate pressure. Started all 17 games this year. Filled in for Javon Kinlaw. In fact, in my opinion, I think he's better than Javon Kinlaw. 2 sacks, 56 tackles, 40 solo, 2 forced fumbles. 56 tackles for a defensive lineman is pretty damn good. And again, he played so well as this season went on. We've watched him. If you've watched the games from his career, you've seen him improve, play more, and just help that defensive line get better and better. This was his best season statistically, although he did have one more sack last year with 3. But he had highs in snaps. He had highs in games played, games started. He had highs in tackles, highs in solo tackles, highs in assisted tackles, highs in forced fumbles. Get that guy back. Got to get him back. Our defense is is the spine of this team. He's still very young, 27 years old. They need to get him back. Okay, he was on a 1-year, $3.5 million contract. Obviously, he's going to get a lot more, or a good amount more, I should say. And he'll definitely generate interest from around the league. They're always looking for defensive tackles in this league. I could see him going somewhere and being, if God forbid that did happen, him being a stud starter there. What we have to figure out is sign him right away. We'll see what happens with Javon Kinlaw's injury after this, but I think that DJ Jones should be the starting defensive tackle by far. Get him back. Raheem Mostert. Hey, man, Raheem was a great, great player for us. Missed this whole season with the injury, the knee injury. Look, he's 30 years old, basically, okay? He was he wasn't a 1-year contract coming into this year, but he was on a 3-year, $8 million contract with us, okay? And in that time, let's face it, did a lot of damage. 2 years ago, he was a stud. He was a stud show. Scary. Last year, he only played 8 games. 521 yards, 2 touchdowns, not many catches out of the backfield. But 2 years ago, 772, 5.6 yards per carry, 8 touchdowns. Guy's a stud, man. That being said, the backfield is crowded. Trey Sermon, Mitchell. Who knows what we're going to do with Jermichael Hasty and Jeff Wilson? They're younger than Raheem Mostert, and haven't been as nicked up as he has. It doesn't make sense to bring him back. And I would love to see him go somewhere else and be either a starter or a contributor, because I just think that he has that kind of ability. Although I don't know how it's going to be him coming back from injury. I hope it's positive for him. Moving on to next position is Kiwan Williams. I love this guy. Kiwan Williams to me is exactly what certain teams needs. He's what we needed. He's a cornerback that is not afraid to tackle and lay pipe with hits. Okay, because he pipes offenders big time, and I love this guy. I really do. He's 30 years old. So that's going to be something. He was on a 1-year contract, $2 million and change. So it wasn't costing us too much. Now I can see him definitely generating interest from around the league because again, cornerback's another position that teams are always looking to fill. And this season, he started 8 games, he played in 14 of them. Some pretty good numbers. He had 1 sack, 52 tackles, a forced fumble, and an interception. Weren't his best numbers for his career, but they were very solid. And I like the way he played down the stretch. A lot of heart, a lot of tenacity. Definitely what we definitely need. Definitely what a lot of other teams are going to be looking for. He's a veteran. That's important. So you can bring him in and he can help out a lot of younger players, or he can service maybe as the second corner or predominantly a third. But I would love to have him back, man. Especially he could still mentor Ambry Thomas, and he could definitely be a big part of our package back there. I'd love to see them get him back. I think that if they could bring him back for another year, maybe you'd see that, depending on what other moves they make. I don't think other than that you'll see him get a 2-3 year. Maybe another year, maybe a 2-year. It's possible. And then again, like I said, you never know what other teams are going to offer. But definitely bring back Kiwan Williams. So far, you got to bring back Tomlinson, got to bring back DJ Jones, got to bring back Kiwan Williams. It's just my opinion. Jeff Wilson, one of my favorite players on the team. I love this guy. I've loved this guy ever since they brought him up. I love this, that his style can be nasty. He can go between the tackles. He can go around, not afraid to take a hit. Plays with a lot of heart. Very durable. Has stepped in wonderfully for us when we needed him. Only 26 years old. He was playing on a 1-year, $2 million and change contract. And number-wise, appeared in 10 games, played 9, started 4. He had 294 yards, 3.7 yards per carry, kind of low on the yards per attempt. But last year, he was the guy to go to when we needed him. Filled in, amazingly. 600 yards, 4.8 on the ground, 7 touchdowns. That was his best year statistically. Not so much of a wide receiver out of the backfield. But again, I think that if we move on from Mostert and we have him as a part of the rotation of the backfield next year, I don't see why that can't happen. I think it would be interesting to have him, Sermon, and Mitchell, or Hasty for that matter. But I could also see Jeff Wilson going to another team too, without a doubt, and being part of the running rotation, especially for teams that need the type of running back like him, who's he could be nasty when he has to. Especially when you get down to the goal line. He definitely has a future. I would love for them to bring him back. He's just a great player. And I love the way he's utilized. So he's a guy I definitely would bring back just to solidify that running back position again, even if it's just him, Mitchell, Sermon, and we'll see what happens with Jermichael Hasty. And I don't think, again, look, I think that if they re-signed him, it would be a 1 or 2 year contract, possibly. I don't know what the money would be. I'm not an accountant, but yeah, he's obviously a guy like him. I can't blame him for going elsewhere if he did have the chance to play for more money and hopefully play for more playing time. Brings back Matt Breida. We saw him go to Miami, then to Buffalo. He didn't really have as good of a run as he did with us. So things aren't always better. But we shall see. Moving on is Ross Dwelly, backup tight end, 27 years old. I like Dwelly, man. I think he's a solid backup. Again, he was playing on a 1-year, $1,600,000 contract, and he filled in admirably when he had to. This year, definitely not as active as he was last year. Only had 4 catches for 51 yards and a touchdown. Last year was his best. 19 catches, 245 and a touchdown. Year before, 15 catches, 91 yards and 2. I'd bring him back. I really would. I'd bring him back. He's got experience with us. He knows the system. Probably not going to cost you that much money. He's at that age where, again, not old at all, but I really can't see him going elsewhere and getting a shit ton of money or a shit ton of play. Although stranger things have happened. But I would bring him back. He's part of the core of the team that we've had. I like Ross Dwelly, man. Bring him back. Josh Norman, again, he's 34 years old. He signed on with us a little later this season. Had a wonderful career early on in his time with the Carolina Panthers, where he was a nemesis to Odell Beckham Jr. when he played for the Giants. Then he went on and made big money with Washington. So Josh Norman's made his money. Okay, he's more of a veteran now. His window is closing, obviously. I thought he helped out a lot this season. Okay, maybe he didn't have the step he used to, but I liked having him as part of that defensive backfield. I thought he helped mentor a lot of the younger players, and at times he did really well. He's another guy who plays with a chip on his shoulder, a little nasty, but we've got to move on from him. He served his purpose. So looking back so far, re-signed Tomlinson, re-signed DJ Jones, re-signed Kiwan, re-signed Wilson, re-signed Dwelly. Marcel Harris, he's kind of a bubble type guy, 27 years old, missed some time this year, was playing on a 1-year, $1 million, $200,000 contract. He was part of that. They kind of moved him over to linebacker a little bit this year. I mean, he did play in 15 games. He only started in 7. 44 tackles, 1 interception, 1 sack. Not bad numbers for a guy to be used the way he did. Not a bad player. I think in the right system like ours, he could definitely be of service. But like I said, bubble, 27, safety, slash linebacker. I think we can move on from him. I'm sure he can definitely find another home without a doubt. Mohamed Sanu, best days are behind him, veteran. We can move on from him, obviously. Next on the list is Jakowski Tarte. Of course, everybody's talking about him with the interception he dropped Sunday. I think this was his best season, to tell you the truth, that I've seen out of him. I think he's more of a total player now. He was on a 1-year, $127,000 contract. And he used to just be one of those guys that would just, pop you. But I thought he played great down the stretch. I really did. I mean, his numbers this year were great. The best in terms of tackles with 66. He didn't get a pick. But again, it's a lot of the things that we take for granted. And, these are the most games he started in his whole career, 14 games. So again, I'd like to have him back. I really would. Now his age, 29. It's not really that old. You get him on a 2-year, 3-year, maybe 2-year contract. Again, he's a system player. He's been with us his whole run. He knows this team really well, and he seems to have just gotten to become a total player. Let's bring him back. Let's run it back with him. Tavon Wilson, we can move on with. We can move on from him. Tom Compton, great season. Probably the best season he's had in his career. Was part of that great offensive line. I like him. I bring him back. I know he's 32, going to be 33. But, again, when you're part of a very good offensive line, why change things up? Now, I think a lot of this is going to be questionable, especially with what they do with Laken Tomlinson and what they decide to do with Aaron Banks and Jalen Moore. Daniel Brunskill. It's going to be interesting to see what happens, because this guy played above and beyond this season for us. And then there's Colton McKivitz we've got there. But I'd like to bring him back again. I'm a big fan of, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Let's run it back again. The guy's not playing like he's his age, 32. I know we also need to see what's going to happen with Justin School, who missed the whole season. But again, I think this is a team in a league that I don't think you can ever have too many offensive linemen, or too many valuable ones for that matter. And we got lucky with him. You don't see that happen a lot. Now, money-wise, I don't think it would hurt us at all. Even if you bring him back for a year, or maybe, he was only playing on a 1-year, $1,075,000 contract. And, again, stepped in admirably, big time, statistic-wise. Played all 17 games, only started 7 of them. Has a ton of experience. Did really well down the stretch. Now, just looking at the numbers, I could see either them bringing him back as a reserve and not so much a starter, and maybe they go with somebody else there, maybe Banks, Moore, whoever, and bring him back as a reserve. I have no problem with that, but I would bring him back either way. He's very valuable. Offensive linemen are extremely valuable in this league. Dante Johnson, another bubble type guy. Playing on a $1,075,000 contract, and played 16 games, started 3. Numbers weren't bad, just kind of whatever. 30 tackles, 1 forced fumble. He's only had 2 picks in his whole career. Never really been a starter with us, except for in 2017 when he started all 16 games. Had 1 pick. I think we can move on from him now. I think that's going to be a little bit crowded back there, and we may look elsewhere. He is 30 years old, going to be 31. I think we can move on from him, especially with some of the young talent we got back there, and hopefully some other guys we bring in this year. Maurice Hirsch is a guy they can move on from. I know he's 26 years old. He's not old. He missed a huge chunk of this season. He was playing on a 1-year, $1,045,000 contract. And, number-wise, he played in 2 games this year, 41 snaps. So, can't really do much with that. Last year, half a sack. Year before that, 3.5. The year before that, 4. Again, I guess it depends on the injury. I guess it depends on who else they bring in there, but I think they can move on from him now, especially with them having to re-sign other players who are on this list and are next. Arden Key, Jordan Willis, 2 guys they have to bring back, without a doubt. Arden Key played his ass off this year. Best season he's had in his career. Was extremely valuable. Still young at 25. They had him on a 1-year, $1,045,000 contract. He was part of a wonderful rotation, and he had a phenomenal year. 6.5 sacks. Played in all 17 games. Bring him back in a heartbeat. Jordan Willis, of course, most famously blocked the punt against the Green Bay Packers, which led to the touchdown. Bring him back. Another great rotation-type player. Played really good down the stretch. He was on a 1-year, $990,000 contract. And numbers-wise, played in 10 games this year. Didn't start any. Did have 3 sacks, 15 tackles, 1 forced fumble. Last season, 2.5 sacks. This year was his best by numbers in terms of sacks. Bring him back. Bring both of them back. Key and Jordan Willis have to come back next year, without a doubt. Moving on from him, Trent Sherfield, we can move on from. Okay, I know he's 25, but now with Juwon Jennings becoming a solidified third receiver, I don't think we're going to need another one. He filled in for a little bit in the beginning of the season. Not too bad. Nothing extravagant. Started one game, caught 9 passes, 87 yards, and a touchdown. Yeah, we can move on from him. Never know if we draft another wide receiver. Trenton Cannon, we can move on from too. Move on from both of those guys. Daniel Brunskill. That's interesting. All right, let's look at the numbers with Daniel Brunskill. They had him on a 1-year, $850,000 contract. And he, of course, had a really good season on a very good offensive line. Played all 17 games, started all 17 games, played 99.5% of the snaps, which is pretty much every one. Last season, same thing, 99.2% of the snaps. Bring him back. He's experienced. He knows this team. He's been with us since 2019. He's helped us. Get him back. Bring back Brunskill. He's only 28. Okay. So far, what do we have? They got to bring back Tomlinson. They got to bring back DJ Jones, Kiwan Williams, Jeff Wilson, Ross Dwelly. Bring back Jakowski Tarte, Tom Compton, Arden Key and Jordan Willis, and Daniel Brunskill. That's 10 players they got to resign. So there's going to, it's going to, again, this is just my opinion, but it's going to be, I think it's going to be more in-house than it is with them looking elsewhere in free agency. Jake Brendel, backup center. Look, Alex Mack is 36. We don't know what the future holds with him. He's saying what he says all offseason. He has to see how things go. Jake Brendel, again, 1 year, $825,000 contract. Didn't really get a lot of playing time played 16 games this year. He appeared in 16 games this year. Didn't get a lot of playing time, only 6 snaps. For his career, he's been predominantly a backup. 2020 didn't play any games. 2018 just 3 games. Missed all of 2019, 2017, 2016. We could move on from him. You never know if we're able to, if Max stays for another year, or we go in another direction. Maybe draft somebody. It'll be interesting to see if we can move on from him. Kentavious Street, Niners got to get him back. 25 years old. I loved what I saw from him this year. Again, I thought it was his best season. He was playing on a 4-year, $3 million and change type contract. Okay, we drafted him in round 4 of 2018. I think, again, another guy who's just gotten better every year, man. Gotten better every year. This year was his highlight reel, 3 sacks. Started 2 games, 27 tackles, 15 solo tackles, 1 forced fumble, part of a great rotation. Get him back right away. Run it back with that defense, man. Key, Willis, Kentavious Street, DJ Jones, bring them all back. It makes sense. Under D'Amico Ryans, you will not be sorry with those guys. Demetrius Flanagan Fowles. Okay. 25 years old. He's a guy we haven't seen too much of, but has filled in at times. Kind of a bubble type guy. Played all 17 games this year. Started 2 of them. 29 tackles. 13 solos. I don't think he's bad at all. They could bring him back. If they have the money and they have the room, why not? He's got experience. Could fill in down the line. This year we lost Greenlaw. We lost Al Shazier for a bit with the injuries. Greenlaw was gone, 16 games? I got no problem with him bringing him back. Jermichael Hasty, bubble player, 25 years old. Had that terrible injury last year at the end of the season. Again, he was playing on a 2-year, $1,390,000 contract. Shanahan loves his running backs, boy, that's for sure. Can't blame him. This year, not too bad. Played 11 games, only had 68 yards, okay, 23 catches out of the backfield. I'd like to see him, if they bring him back, utilize more as a wide receiver out of the backfield. I still say that's one area that we really need. I thought that was going to be Kyle Juszczyk, but hasn't been the case so much. Could bring back Hasty, even if it's Mitchell, Hasty, Sermon, Jeff Wilson. I think that's a fine combination. Juwon Jennings, gotta bring him back. Must. This guy has gotten better each and every game down the road this season. He came up huge in the last couple of games. I love him as a third receiver. Gotta bring him back. What a year. Played all 16 games, started one of them. 24 catches, 282 yards, 5 touchdowns. Gotta bring him back. So again, a lot of in-house moves have to be made. Richie James. Well, he was playing out of a 4-year, $2 million and change contract. And of course, this season was a wash with the injuries. Although last year was his best year, 23 catches, 394. He was a deep threat with 17.1 yards per catch. Only had 1 touchdown. Honestly, I mean, depending on what is going to be from this injury, I think they can move on from him too. Although, they will need another wide receiver back there just to fill in once they don't re-sign Sanu and Sherfield. Azeez Al-Shahir, must re-sign him. This guy played lights out this season. Lights out. Best season by far. Started 13 games, 2 sacks, 102 tackles, 1 forced fumble, 1 interception. He was all over the damn place. And he was, playing on a 3-year, $1,770,000 contract. Bring him back. Bring back those 3 core. So you have those 3 core linebackers. Him, Dre Greenlaw, and Fred Warner. Again, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Last but not least, Kevin Gibbons, 24 years old. I would have liked to have seen more from him. I know it's a crowded rotation back there. He was on a 2-year, $1,080,000 contract. Okay, and stat-wise, played 13 games. He only played 21.2 of the snaps, 17 tackles, 1 forced fumble. Didn't get a sack, but I thought he played good for when he did play. Again, he's been with us since 2019. If they have the money, bring him back. Unless he generates a lot of interest from somewhere else, you just don't have the money to bring him back. I mean, so again, looking over this, again, the obvious, you got to bring back Laken Tomlinson. You got to bring back DJ Jones. I think you have to bring back Kiwan and Jeff Wilson and Ross Dwelly and Jakowski Tarte and Tom Compton. And you got to bring back Arden Key and Jordan Willis. And you got to bring back, Brunskill, Contavious Street, I could see Flanagan Fowles coming back. I could see Hasty coming back. Obviously, Jennings, Al-Shahir. They got to spend a lot of time. And maybe it works out best to some extent with them having lack of draft picks, although I don't think so. They got to spend a lot of time signing their own. Because if you look at the free agent list from, this upcoming season, when you look at this offseason of regular free agents in this league, I don't think it's going to be a place where the 49ers are really going to delve into, to be honest, because there's a lot of, just look at the top names. Von Miller is going to be out there, okay? Brandon Scherf, Allen Robinson, Chandler Jones, Chris Godwin, Nate Solder, Dante Fowler Jr., Davonte Adams, Tyrann Mathieu, Cam Robinson, Andrew Norwell, Teron Armstead, Stephen Gilmore, Calais Campbell. A lot of these guys they're in their 30s. I mean, Von Miller's 32. Brandon Scherff is 30. Chandler Jones is 31. Nate Solder is 33. Gilmore's 31. Calais Campbell's 35. I can't see a lot of teams pouring money into guys who are at a certain age. I also can't see a lot of teams pouring money into guys who either didn't really have a great season or were injured. Von Miller did not look the same in Los Angeles as he did with the Broncos. Okay, maybe it's because he hasn't, really been there too long, but to me, that, the Niners don't need an outside linebacker. At guard, they don't need Brandon Scherff because they've got plenty of guys there with young talent, like we said, Jalen Moore, Banks. If they bring back Laken Tomlinson, who's going to be a lot cheaper than Brandon Scherff. Allen Robinson, we don't need another wide receiver. I can't see him getting $17 million. I don't know. We sure shit ain't going to get it from the 49ers. Chandler Jones, is he still the same? Don't need an outside linebacker. Chris Godwin is probably the best player, one of the best players on that list. Someone's going to re-sign him, or he's going to go somewhere else, especially with Tom Brady not being in Tampa Bay anymore. Nate Solder, okay, we saw what happened to him in New York. We don't need a left tackle. Dante Fowler Jr., again, he's one of those tweener guys. He's not really a defensive end. He's not really an outside linebacker. I know he's predominantly a pass rusher. We don't need that, okay? Davonte Adams, look, him and Chris Godwin are the guys there. Whatever happens in Green Bay, I think wherever Aaron Rodgers goes, Davonte Adams will follow, or he'll go somewhere with a phenomenal quarterback and a phenomenal passing game, because he's one of the best wide receivers in football. He's not coming to San Francisco. Tyrann Mathieu, we don't need a free safety. I mean, he's 29, $14 million a year. I don't think we're going to have that type of money. Cam Robinson, left tackle, 26 years old. I wouldn't, Andrew Norwell is a guard. Teron Armstead's a left tackle. We don't need. Stephen Gilmore, 31, $13 million. Don't think so. Calais Campbell, is he still what he was? He's 35. Pierre Paul, and played phenomenal, and even in his 30s, but we don't need another defensive end. Akeem Hicks, Devin McCourty, Dwayne Brown, Joe Hayden, Jerry Hughes, Will Fuller. Will Fuller's always injured every fucking year. Don't need another wide receiver. And for $10 million? No, you're going to get somebody. You got Juwon Jennings. Re-sign him for a lot cheaper. Marcus May, I'm not a fan of. Brandon Williams, Ryan Jensen, good center, but $10 million, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe they look there for him. If things don't work out with Mac, maybe they look at Ryan Jensen, although $10 million is a lot. Mario Addison's 34. Ryan Fitzpatrick, I'm just reading the list, 39. Andy Dalton's 34. That's another thing. They're going to look to have to bring in another backup. I could see Andy Dalton coming over for a lot less money. He's not going to be making $10 million, that's for sure, because his best days are way behind him. But if they can get a backup for Trey Lance, why not? Matt Paradis, Kyle Fuller, Jamison Crowder. We don't need that. Don't need another receiver. Trenton Brown. We drafted Trent Brown. Jason Kelsey. Sue. He's 35. Donta Hightower. Anthony Barr. These are all positions of guys we really are, we don't really need these positions. We don't need to fill these positions. Even at running back, we don't need. Melvin Gordon's going to be a free agent, but we've got running backs. So we have running backs to re-sign. Patrick Peterson, T.Y. Hilton, Jimmy Graham, Jadeveon Clowney. We don't know what's going to happen with Gronkowski. Most likely he's going to retire. Juju Smith-Schuster. Okay, yeah, great wide receiver, but he's injured. And, of course, there's always been his attitude's always been questionable over there. I'm sure they're either going to re-sign him in Pittsburgh, depending on who becomes the quarterback, or he'll go somewhere else and generate a shitload of money. Emmanuel Ogbah, not a bad player. Vernon Butler, Riley Reef, Chris Hubbard, Ben Jones. There's a lot of players on this list that are on the back end who I would consider signing. And when and if we do have the money or the need to re-sign them, I can't see it happening straight up. I can't. A lot of these guys, I just can't see us chasing. Hassan Reddick, Jared Davis, another guy who's always injured. Keelan Cole, pretty much been a 3-4 receiver. Tyrod Taylor, Jameis Winston. Yeah, there's a lot of guys. I mean, again, I don't see us signing a lot of these guys. I see us doing a lot more in-house, taking care of what we have to take care of, re-signing the core players that we need, that were part of this team already, and that have the experience and fit the criteria. I think that's way more important than going out and signing and blowing money away. I really do. And drafting some really key players that we're going to need with the limited amount of draft picks that we have. This is not really the year to go out and sign a lot of players. Akello Weatherspoon's out there. I was never a fan of his. Yeah, I don't see it. I really don't see us making drastic moves in the free agent market unless it's these guys on the back end to fill in some positions or fill in some guys who leave. I don't see it happening. So, in the long run, again, we have a lot of stuff we got to take care of in house, man. And that's where it's going to be very important for us to do. First and foremost, we're going to see what the Jimmy G situation is, what happens there. And then from there, I think, once we free up that money, if we free up that money, we'll have a lot more to spend. And God knows who we bring back and who we won't bring back. But the list of players I read are the guys they really should bring back. And even if it's not all of them, a good chunk of them, you got to bring back DJ Jones. You got to bring back Laken Tomlinson. It wouldn't hurt you at all. You got to bring back Juwon Jennings. These guys all performed. And so many other of the players on that list. They all performed well this season. So it's going to be a really interesting offseason. Let's keep our eyes and ears open and see what happens. And don't, try not to go down the rabbit hole with a lot of these silly stories you see on social media about all that what's going to happen. Because a lot of them are bullshit rumors. So I try not get too tied up into that. Shanahan and Lynch know exactly what they want and what they need at every position. So they're very strategic and very smart when it comes to it. So it should be interesting. But thanks for listening. You can find me on Instagram. You can find me on Facebook. Give me a heads up. Give me a shout out. Give me a message if you want. I look forward to speaking to all 49er fans, even if we don't agree on the same thing, and just going back and forth, having a good conversation about the team we love. Niner Nut out.